Powered by Riverside FM.
This was first published October 3rd, 2024 on my blog, Living Every Minute of It. The title is Not That Bad versus Fabulous. My friend Alessandra complains about her husband, her kids, her finances, her weight, and pretty much everyone in her life a lot of the time. Tally says she has no time for my mood boosters or self-care woo-woo crap because she's busy lifing, and besides, it's not that bad. I love Tally, but I hate that she's settling for not that bad as how much she can enjoy her life. And to be clear, I am not blaming or criticizing her. I remember when not that bad was actually way better than I felt most of the time, when not that bad would have been a good day for me. And back then I shortchanged myself the same way Tally shortchanges herself. I thought being too busy and overwhelmed was how good people were supposed to feel, and I wanted to be a good person. In a way, I'm glad to have had the experience of decades of aspiring to feeling not that bad as a goal, because now that pretty good most of the time is my default state, with even a decent sprinkling of fabulous some of the time, I know it's possible for Tali to get there too, if she wants to, when she's ready to give it a whirl. Because she is a good person, and so was I, even though I didn't feel like I deserved to enjoy my life. Didn't even know joy was on the menu. I needed to be told many times. For me, once the decision was made that I wasn't okay feeling not that bad on my best days or better days, and fairly vexed and or stressed and or pissed off and or miserable and or plagued by my own thoughts and or exhausted and defeated the rest of the time, it was like, oh crap, now what? And then a bunch of seeking, helpers and teachers and places and identities and messes, and then smoothish sailing for years. And it's been worth it. Today, the baseline okayness that once seemed out of reach for me is where I generally live. And when I'm not there, I notice. I know what it takes to get that nose of the plane up above the clouds, and I do it. And I'm back in blue sky life where it's sunny and lovely, and I don't need to be a grouchy bitch or isolate or numb myself for refuge from a life that doesn't bring me joy, because my life does bring me joy. Hey, welcome to Joys on the Menu. I'm Sascha, and I'm here with my dear friend, Holly Ridgeway, positivity and law of attraction coach. She is here to talk about some of the issues that we just heard about in the blog post. What was the title of it? The title of it was Not That Bad versus Fabulous. And I feel like this is an issue that's very close to my heart because I spent most of the first chapter of my life aspiring to have it be not that bad for a variety of reasons, psychological, whatever, nature, nurture. I love you, Mom and Dad. You're fabulous.
Right. Yeah.
And
Truth.
And then, through various modalities, I've kind of caught glimpses some of the time of feeling even better than not that bad. And I just think, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Tell me, what are some of the biggest issues your clients come to you with, that they think are insurmountable?
That blog was so poignant. I mean, it really, really spoke to my soul and my work also, because I think that I suffered for so long and I didn't even realize that I was. And I remember a long time ago too, also having this idea that I could put new things on the menu. Like, I didn't know that I could have abundance. I didn't know that I could have happiness. I didn't know that I didn't have to clock in. I thought that, life is clocking into work, waking up early, doing the grind, having an identity in this persona around what I did for a living, and then, being a good woman at home and watch TV and go to bed and wake up and do it all again. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I think that's how a lot of people live. And I feel like I do know some people for whom like that works. Like I don't,
yeah, it's great while it's working. And
yeah,
then when you have that kind of quiet hole in your soul, wondering, like, I'm trying to check these boxes and I'm supposed to be, some level
it's
of
not working
content.
anymore.
It's not working. Yeah. And I think, my teachers used to say that a midlife crisis is basically when your personas stop working, right? And so it was that, I had the nursing persona and I felt really good in the world, wearing my scrubs and keeping my stethoscope around my neck on my way to the grocery store after work because I was somebody in society, and it truly, that persona can take you a long way, and some people take it all the way to the grave. And when it's working and you are getting a fully fulfilled sense of this is who I wanted to be in the world and I'm doing it, then that's great. But the nursing was a shortcut to what I really wanted to be doing for a lack of time, money, knowledge, that I could actually have deep emotional connections with people and help them with their suffering, which is, when I was 14, I knew I wanted to be a psychologist. And over the years, they said, you don't have any money. You don't have any parents who will support that. You don't have the time. Do you know how many free clinical hours you'll have to do? It doesn't exist for me. It wasn't on my menu. And so I went about what was on the menu, and that was a vocational school in nursing. And I got a lot of, ego satisfaction out of it. My small self, persona could ride that wave for a while, and until it couldn't.
It's so interesting because I didn't even think about the fact that you, since I met you when you had already sort of transitioned from like nurse Holly to coach Holly, I just think that like you've got it going on and you've sort of always been this person. But to realize like you relate to this too, like needing to let go of something in order to get something better. I mean, how bad does it need to get for people?
That's a good
And do the
question.
people who come to you already know they're in transition or need to transition, or do they think they just need like a pep talk? Like, when do people know it's time?
I think my early clients, yeah, they would just kind of be exhausted. It's not working. My wife said she's done with me. What does that mean? And so we would parse it out. And really I worked with a lot of men early on in the realm of relationships because that was just sort of an expertise, because my teachers, were Gay and Katie Hendricks, who were relationship experts. And so communication and really intimate relationships became, an easy thing for me to help people with. That was really accessible. But then this concept of suffering and listening to people, I honestly, I was here. So you thought I was such a great coach, right? But I was here driving Uber, and I would drive Uber around Los Olivos and Buellton, Santa Barbara. It's a beautiful place if you got to be an Uber driver. But it was like, what has my life become? I was still really
And so were you
struggling.
coaching your passengers because you're such a natural?
Well, back then I still lacked the confidence, and people around me were really natural, and they were like, hardcore coaches, and they would they could just nail you down in like 2 sessions, and
Right.
you'd
You
be on
were
the floor
comparing
crying.
yourself to like
Yeah,
whoever,
yeah,
like,
the 6-point plan for your amazing life. And I was like, I was still more of a talker. I wanted to go deep. I wanted to, get down below the surface, the feelings under the feelings under the feelings. And
but for our listeners, I'm just going to cut you off
yeah.
because I do that because you can take the girl out of
Right. So
New York.
the point of the story, thank you. Let me get to the point. I'm driving Uber, and things were a little bit better. And I started interviewing everybody that I drove. If you had therapy or coaching or, something like that, what would you be looking for? And hundreds of times people would say, I'm just not as happy as I think I can be, or I think I could be more happy. I'd like to be a little bit happier. And so this word happy became a thing. And so then I formed the LLC More Happy. And then come to find out, people get really freaked out. When you say you could be more happy, they're like, well, I don't really need to be happy. Oh my gosh, that's like, oh, I mean, I wouldn't ask for happiness. Like, how dare you?
Right. They want happiness, but like when you
People laugh,
say
right?
like go for happiness, it's like, screw you, like it's good enough.
Right,
Like, and
exactly.
I was always so
Yes.
defensive at being like kind of identified as someone who wasn't feeling good a lot of the time. And yet I did secretly long to feel better. But like if someone, yeah, said like, gee, you should feel better, I'd be like, I'm fine.
Right. You don't know me. Yeah.
So it had to get pretty bad before I said, okay, I got to do some work here.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are like, okay, fine, I'm willing to do some work. I'm going to go to therapy. And, it's like, I love therapy. I love me some therapy, but it's not like that is not a fast track process.
No.
Or like I'm gonna go. I was all into the like having like crystals and like acupuncture and of course psychiatry, like get me some SSRIs on board. Anyway, I'm talking too much about myself.
To come across a coach who had also studied with Gay and Katie Hendricks, and he proposed that, we are outsourcing our happiness too much. And it's when the job and the kids and the relationships aren't working, then now it's like the astrology and the chakra tuning and the acupuncture, but it's still an outsourcing of our well-being. And so the premise of being
I love that outsourcing. Yes.
And he wasn't like teaching us, to sit in meditation and whatnot. That was the dive into finding out, like, who did you want to be? What does bring you happiness and satisfaction? Like, what's close to your heart? Who did you want to be when you were a kid? Right? Before, the famous quote, like, who were you before the world told you who to be? And so getting back into that kind of stuff and asking those questions.
Sounds very daunting. Like if I were in the hole, that would feel very daunting. But I guess this podcast isn't really for people. Like if you're in crisis, call 911 to get a therapist. But like if it's just kind of like me.
And your blog spoke to that. It was just like, I'm okay. Nothing to see.
Well, right. The first title for it was going to be more okay more of the time, because I thought that was more palatable. And then like you and some other friends of mine who've seen me walk in the path for just a couple decades are like, own it. You are into joy now. You've graduated from okay is enough.
That's right. It's so true. And thank goodness. But it is funny how people will still, feel guilty that they want happiness or joy. And back to your very first question, right, was like, how bad does it have to get? And it's like, well, most of the men that talk to me, like, felt like they were pretty on the verge of misery or divorce. Like it had gotten bad.
Yeah.
And now they're desperate. And that's it. And so the people who are desperate, they do, when you offer them happiness, it freaks them out.
So is there, I guess, a way to motivate people to kind of get on it before it gets so bad? Or is getting so bad kind of a necessary precursor to digging in? Because digging in, I mean, who really wants to change? Like that seems like kind of tiring. Like if I were okay-ish, I would probably just keep Netflix and chill. It had to get bad for me to be like, okay, I need to wake it up and like own this life.
No, I feel like spirituality is at the core of everything I do and believe, even though it's pretty, woo and law of attraction and whatnot. Because I've got a very spiritual background and even a religious background, and so that's at the core. And I know when a soul's purpose is calling them, it hurts. So,
oh, that is not what I thought you were gonna
no,
say. What?
no.
I wanted the good news. What's the good news?
Is, that when it's bad enough, you really do go searching. And so I think because personal development is more on the menu of mainstream, I think people are noticing earlier than complete and total misery.
Right. But what about like all this space, this personal development space? Like part of why, I'm motivated to kind of show up in a space that is full of, I don't necessarily want to be part of the personal development club, but like here I am because like so much of it is, not real and almost kind of like for me as a consumer of that stuff, it made me feel worse. Like, here's what you need to do to feel great. Like, drink this lemon water in the morning and buy my 45, episode YouTube, whatever.
Yeah, but you're not the average Joe either.
No, I think it is very hard for a lot of people like that other, woman who is, so bendy and putting clearly Photoshop pictures of her, plastic surgery self up there under the banner of like a mindfulness routine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that can definitely cause a lot of comparison. And comparison of any kind is the thief of all joy. It really is.
Yes, I say that too.
And so that's, yeah.
Compare despair.
Compare despair. It's so true.
How do you get out of that cycle though and find what works,
But
this authentic self?
if you're looking at that, like that's part of a different pattern then, which is, again, now we're getting like advanced, but you can choose
Oh no.
not to look at the people who make you feel like crap. I mean, even I will
like
still
look away.
I still get sucked into social media sometimes.
Cleanse your feed.
Yes, or no feed, and it, man, oh man, like I have pretty good curated stuff now, but I would still get trapped in the, well, why aren't I doing this and why aren't I doing that?
Right.
That's the other thing too that I think when you're working with somebody is that you can check in, because sometimes I'll think I want something, and when I really can go deep with somebody else, or in the work people do, I ask them, is we can kind of actually find out like that's not really your highest excitement.
Right. Like the remodeled kitchen that I was sure would make me feel better in my home.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wait, there's something deeper going on. Like I'm not comfortable in my home, not because I don't like my kitchen counters.
Yes.
I'll leave that hanging. But enough about me. It's like, oh, what great news.
Right.
Like I don't need to remodel my kitchen. I need to do something.
Right.
But like not that, and it actually doesn't cost as much or kind of like leave me without a kitchen for several months.
It's shocking how hard it is for people to make a list of things that they enjoy, that make them happy and bring them satisfaction, and compare it to a list that the stuff they actually do during the day, and then adjust accordingly. It's really much harder than anybody imagined, but sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, this went not necessarily where I thought it would go, because I thought you would come and give us some like good, solid law of attraction, positive psychology, woo-woo tips and tricks. But I love that you brought your own story in, and, kind of like
it's been a journey.
You're
I live by this, honestly.
I mean, you are living your best life, but now hearing your story a little bit more, it's been hard won. You've had to make some sacrifices and leave the path that looked appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love the line in your blog about bringing the plane back, above the clouds and keep
the nose of that plane above the
I was like, man, that is telling the whole story, because that's what it is, because we're going to have opportunities every single day. Those dips happen to all of us. And the longer the gap is between those dips, you're living a really good life. And it's just that simple. And oftentimes it is a matter of practice. It's just, I did it so much that it became normal. It was
right. Don't freak out when the dips come. Just pull that nose of the plane back up.
And I know
in whatever way.
Like, oh my gosh, and I can't believe I'm dipping down into the clouds again, and now it's like I'm just layering it on top of itself. I mean, I know all the mental gymnastics of keeping myself there. But I also, another story though, is that I remember the day I was driving in Santa Fe down Cerrillos, almost to Agua Fria and Osage, and I was chewing on a problem, and I had the thought quietly out of my back brain that said, oh, it's okay. Everything always works out for you.
Yes.
And it took me just a second, maybe a couple of Mississippi, but I went, what is happening? That is awesome.
Right.
Like, and I knew I've changed. If that's the voice that used to kick my ass coming up and out of my brain, I made a massive shift in my life.
Well, in your brain, actually. And that's what you're doing now, I understand, is you're not doing these multi-year relationships or many months kind of weekly session thing. You're doing more the 1 day, 2 day, week long brain retrain, new habits of thought. And
because now it's kind of coming into lifestyle. So I have done some multi-day things one-on-one with people or a couple people, and I
want that,
because it's people are pretty surprised how I live, and that I can do it unafraid and semi inexpensively, certainly compared to how most people are living. So I put a lot of things on people's menu.
But I love that what you said, that a problem comes up, and it used to be like, oh, excuse my language, we got to edit that. You're in trouble, this is terrible. And then like that second voice of like, quit kidding yourself, everything always works out, it's gonna be okay.
100%.
Like
and that image that of the plane going above the clouds, that was genius, and it's a great visual. I really appreciated that line.
Thanks. Well, you can
essay, beautiful blog. I
Thanks,
love it,
sweetie. So anyway, we just love each other so much. Yes, you can still have a decent amount of sass and be all like, yay about life. But so you can find out more about Holly in the notes to this podcast, or look her up at hollyridgeway.com, HOLLYRIDGEWAY.com. And joy is on the menu. Hope you order that today.